Thank you for choosing Axxess On Demand. Axxess believes in continuing education, and we create content to empower you to learn and grow anytime, anywhere. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Be Your Own Boss webinar. My name is Katie Fortenberry. I'm an RN, and I'm a marketing specialist for Axxess Care. We are super excited to have you guys here to learn more about Axxess Care and how you can be your own boss. Before I jump into the agenda and all the information we have for you guys today, just a little quick tidbit. You have a chat and a question section. Any questions that you guys have throughout the webinar, make sure you put the question in the question section specifically. I have other marketing specialists with Axxess Care in here that will be monitoring that. And if time allows at the end, we will go through some Q&A as well. So I appreciate it, and we'll go ahead and jump right in. Some things we're going to cover in the Be Your Own Boss webinar. We're going to just do a brief overview of Axxess Care, jump into what it means to be self-employed, go over some tax considerations, liability insurance, your responsibility as a clinician, documentation. We're going to go over some high earners with Axxess Care, go over what we call our care calculator, and then give you guys some tips to be successful on Axxess Care as well. So first things first is just as a reminder, I just want to go over what the Axxess Care mobile app is. Some of you may already be using Axxess Care all the time, and some of you may be brand new. So really what the Axxess Care mobile app is an easy way for clinicians and therapists to earn more. You get the ability to connect with opportunities, to enjoy a flexible schedule, work when you want, where you want, and for how much you want. You get to choose visits nearby, get paid more and faster, and then you also get to document with ease where you can do it all at the point of care through the Axxess Care mobile app. So it really offers you the flexibility and ability to connect with more organizations and more patients. What I really like to cover is go over the value, the things that we found that clinicians like yourself love about Axxess Care and what it offers. So the very first thing is the ability to be an independent worker, the ability to be your own boss, to be able to choose when you work, how much you work, and all of that. The ability to say, man, this has been a lot. I'm getting tired. I'm starting to feel burnout. You can take a break without needing to ask for permission, to have to put in for PTO. It really leads to less burnout because you get to choose when you need to work or when you don't. And then obviously that supplemental income is huge. Having the ability to pick up extra visits, to put a little extra in your pocket. We have Christmas around the corner. We've seen a big uptick in clinicians wanting to jump on and pick up a few extra visits, just to put a few more presents under the tree or maybe for a vacation coming up. And then you'll see later on about the amount that people can make on Axxess Care, even using this as a full-time gig. So there's so many options and ability that lead to a lot of work satisfaction. You also have a huge networking opportunity with Axxess Care because you're not just working for one organization, you're picking up visits from multiple organizations. Really allows you to get to connect with other people, grow your network within the healthcare field, learn about different policies and procedures, and really increase your skill set as well with more work opportunities. The thing that everybody loves most about Axxess Care is the flexible schedule. Gives you personal control over your schedule, right? You get to control, like I mentioned, when you work, where you work, and how much you want to make on Axxess Care, which is huge. Like I said, you're not having to wait for permission for PTO. You just choose. You don't want to work on Thursday? Great. We're not going to apply to any visits. That control for that flexible schedule in a healthcare field that doesn't really exist, we're offering it now with Axxess Care. So that's a huge value piece for you using it. Another great part of it is faster pay. One, all your pay is direct deposit, and then you can receive payment in 5 business days or less. Another great part of it is the integrated workflow. You can track, manage, and complete all your visits within the Axxess Care app. Your schedule's there. You can route visits for your day through Axxess Care app, do all your documentation, view your pay, etc. It's all done and integrated within that Axxess Care app. And then lastly, one of the biggest things, the reason why we've all entered the healthcare field as clinicians, we want to make a difference in people's lives, right? So serving our community, having the ability to impact more patients, to improve the quality of life of more patients. Coming back to our why, Axxess Care allows you to really work with more patients and make such a positive impact with more patients as well. What I want to jump into next, now that we know how and why Axxess Care exists and how great it can be for you, no matter your situation, a big part of being your own boss is realizing that there's a few things that are different than what you're used to. Being your own boss and being self-employed basically means you're an independent worker who provides service to others. The biggest difference you're going to see is at the end of the year, when you go to, or I should say January, so after the year ends and you're getting all your tax documents, you normally receive what we call a W-2 when you're working for an agency as an employee. As an independent contractor or self-employed person, you are going to be receiving a 1099. That 1099 is a little bit different than the W-2, and I'll explain what's different on the next slide. What's also different is the W-9 aspect. So if you remember, when you start working as an employee for a company, you have to fill out what they call a W-4. Sort of, you have to put in how much you're going to claim and some pertinent personal information as well. When you're self-employed, instead of that W-4, you fill out what we call a W-9. What's great is Axxess Care makes this super easy for you. You're going to fill out your W-9 directly on the Axxess Care app, and then it's automatically sent to agencies you work for. So you don't have to physically send it to them, get it, make sure they have it. It's all in the Axxess Care solution for them to have. And then you'll fill a new W-9 out every year as that needs to be completed. The 1099 is super easy for you as well. Every January, the agencies you work for will upload your 1099 directly to your Axxess Care app. You literally click on the 3-line menu bar on the bottom right, click tax documents. At the very top, there's 2 options, W-9 and 1099. You'll toggle to the 1099, and then you'll be able to see all your 1099s for the previous year. That way you're able to save them and get them filed with your tax accountant. One thing I do like to note about the 1099s, some people aren't aware, agencies do not need or have to provide the 1099 if you make under $600. So just to be aware, if you feel like you're missing one, that's likely the case. You just didn't make enough to need the 1099 from that agency. All other ones where you make 600 above will be supplied for you in there by the agency for you to easily take care of. Now, the biggest difference with a W-2 employee and a 1099 self-employed independent contractor is the tax considerations. If you notice, as a W-2 employee, when you get your paycheck every week or every 2 weeks or every month, depending on how your employer does it, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of deductions, right? You have your state tax, your federal tax, Social Security, so on and so forth. As a 1099 self-employed, your own boss, there's no deductions. If you pick up a visit for $60, you're going to get paid $60. However, you're still going to owe tax on that, all right? The self-employment tax rate currently, right now as we speak, is 15.3% of your income. Now, the big thing that I want to throw out there, and I want to make sure everybody understands, part of being your own boss is making sure that you understand the big differences between being W-2 and 1099. Every person's situation is different, and it's really important that you reach out to a tax accountant, CPA, to go over your specific situation to make sure you're setting yourself up for success in the tax realm of your life when it comes to using Axxess Care or being a 1099 self-contractor. Another cool part, an advantage of being 1099 are the fact that you get to deduct a lot of things. For example, your home office, internet and phone bills, business travel, vehicle maintenance, education and training to get your CEUs that you need, gas, and plenty more that could apply to you. This is just a small list of many things that you can deduct that will help save on your tax right there. And once again, talking with the tax accountant, CPA, will really help them help you with what's possible to be deducted to help you save as much as you can in taxes. The last part of tax considerations, things that you want to make sure you're taking advantage of, is quarterly payments. So this is a big thing that a lot of people don't understand. If you're not saving money from each visit, what's going to happen is you're going to get a big bill at tax season saying this is how much you owe in taxes, right? And that's a lot for some people and can be overwhelming if they don't understand it, which is why we wanted to be able to give you guys this Be Your Own Boss webinar so you can understand some of these things that aren't always thought of. Quarterly payments allows you to schedule your taxes into quarterly payments as estimates. And what it does is it really prevents you from having that large amount due at tax season, and it can help avoid any penalties and things of that nature. So these are some really important things to keep in mind. Make sure you're considering, make sure you're talking to a tax accountant or CPA to make sure you're taking care of your situation and that you're all set when it comes to taxes and there's no surprises. Another big thing that's really important with being a 1099, especially in the healthcare field, is liability insurance. You know, we've all worked extremely hard for our licenses, and the last thing we want to do is put ourselves at risk for losing them, right? So a huge part of working in healthcare is making sure you have liability insurance. Working as a 1099, you're typically not going to be covered under the agency you're working for because you're not employed by them. Now, if you're an employee, you typically are covered under their liability insurance, but once again, circumstances are different for every situation and every employer. Working as a 1099, you want to make sure you're covering yourself, your license, against any lawsuits or anything that may come up. There are several companies out there that offer liability insurance for healthcare workers. I highly suggest that you go out there, look at the options, and see what's available to make sure you're protecting yourself to the best of your ability. I know several clinicians in general that have liability insurance, whether they're 1099 or a W-2 working for an employer, to make sure they are fully covered for everything because they've worked so hard for their license. They want to make sure that they're always protected. A few things that we wanted to touch base on are some of your responsibilities as a clinician when you're a 1099 working on Axxess Care. One is you want to make sure all required information is current and updated, right? There's a lot of laws and regulations out there on what you need to have in order to be working in home health and with patients. So making sure that you have an updated CPR card, your driver's license, any certifications and things that you have, renewing your license, completing your CEUs, all of that is updated and in the Axxess Care app in your profile. Another huge thing is making sure you're staying educated on state and federal laws. Constantly, regulations, state and federal level laws are changing in the home health space, right? It's on you to make sure you're staying up to date, that you're following all state and federal laws and regulations and are aware of changes. Now, the great thing is here at Axxess, we do a ton of webinars, blogs, social media posts, and we have training and certifications, all that touch base on changes that we're seeing in laws and regulations. So it's a great place for you to look. And in our training and certification section, you'll also notice a lot of them have CEUs potentially tied to them, which helps with your license renewal. However, there's a lot of places out there where you can keep yourself educated on these changes. So just make sure you know you're aware that you have to stay updated on all of this. Obviously, another factor is sometimes organizations want different things. So just be willing to provide any additional information that may be requested by an organization as well. Lastly, you want to be able to provide your own equipment. So this is just very simple things depending on what type of clinician or therapist you are, but typically a stethoscope, a pulse ox, thermometer, blood pressure cuff, and then just cleaning supplies to clean your personal equipment in between patients. As far as the organizations, they're going to be required to provide any additional supplies that may be necessary according to the patient plan of care. So you're just really getting those few personal supplies. The rest should be supplied there for you guys. We wanted to touch base a little bit about documentation as well on the Axxess Care app. So according to the terms of service within Axxess Care, when you pick up a visit, documentation is required to be submitted 48 hours from the date of the visit, okay? So 48 hours or sooner. And the reason being is we want to make sure, one, the agency is fully aware of what's going on with that patient. Any future visits are aware of the status of the patient during your visit with your documentation and allow for any changes. The awesome thing too for you guys is there's a huge incentive for you as a clinician to get that documentation in. The sooner you submit documentation, the sooner you get paid. When you submit the documentation, that's when the payment timer starts, which I'm going to go over in just a second with you on how payments work, just as a refresher for those of you that have been using Axxess Care, but letting anyone that's new as well know how you get paid and the timeline on that. One other thing I want to mention before I get to payments is that the Axxess Care system will automatically suspend you from applying to other visits if documentation reads 7 days past due. Obviously, it's super important for our patients and our agencies, organizations, that they're getting that documentation as soon as possible. So we just want to make sure you guys are fully aware of that. Now, what everybody wants to know, the payment portion, right? So how payment works is once you submit your documentation to the organization, you will receive your payment. The funds will be released to your bank account either 5 business days after you submit that documentation or when the agency QAs the visit, whichever comes first, okay? So hence, the sooner you turn in the documentation, the faster you're gonna get that payment. One thing I like to let people know as well is that when the funds are released to your bank account, so say they're released on that 5th business day, it can take 24 to 48 hours for it to hit your account, depending on your bank. So just be fully aware of that. Every bank is different, but when we release the funds, sometimes you may see them the very next morning, sometimes might be that 48-hour mark, excuse me. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up and understanding of the payment and how it works and how it relates to documentation as well. So we're getting to some of my favorite slides now on this, because as you can see on here, these are some of our top earners in the last 12 months on Axxess Care. And we reach out to them to sort of get their thoughts on Axxess Care. And what I really love about this is that they're all saying a lot of the same stuff, but they also all love Axxess Care for a few other different reasons too, which really shows how it can fit into everybody's life in different ways. Some of these people pick up and use Axxess Care full time, where they're only doing this, they're not working for anybody else. And then there's some that maybe work for another organization or two, and then also use Axxess Care. So there's a lot of different varieties and how it can be used and how these individuals use it. What you'll see in this theme is the word easy a lot. Axxess Care makes it easy to connect and work with organizations in the areas of my choice. They can build stronger relationship, and pay is great. Home health visits are literally at your fingertips for extra money. Another one, very similar, opens the door to multiple opportunities with several different organizations. Being able to see patients in my own time as a mom of 3, right? It allows you to do what you need to do with your family or however it may fit depending on where you're at in life. Another one is another word, easy. Axxess Care has made it easy to find open visits in my area. I can pick up according to my own schedule. Flexible, right? Easy and flexible. Another one that I love about Jesse's over here is I get to learn different organization policies and procedures to do a better job for each organization, and it's improved her skill set, which is huge, right? That's what you always want as a clinician, is continue to learn and improve your skill set. The healthcare field's always changing, and to be able to see more patients, different patients, learn about different policies and procedures and how they're done can only benefit you in the long run. Another one is the apps. I was able to find patients in my location. Location was super important, and Axxess Care allowed her to stay where she wanted and easily route visits as well. So some really amazing things from some of our highest earners. It's really great to see what they had to say and how maybe it can apply to you as a clinician as well. Now, before we get to my favorite slide of this whole thing, we have this awesome thing called a care calculator. And what it really can do is it can show you what you can make on Axxess Care based on how many days in the week you're available and the number of visits you want to do each day. Now, what's cool about this too is for those of you that are able to do Oasis visits, the way that this calculator is figured is just for regular skilled visits, not for Oasis visits, which are a lot of times much more, right, than a regular visit. So this could be even more amplified for some of our Oasis clinicians that are able to complete that. But this is a really cool care calculator that we have. We'll be sending out as well, so you guys can play around and see what's possible And no, every pay rate's different, right? Every organization posts different pay rates for different visits, and you never know where that will fall on the pay scale too, which is really cool and something you have full control of as well. Now, my favorite slide more than anything is our top earners. So I was blown away at how much these individuals made on Axxess Care alone over a 12-month period. Our highest earning LVN in a 12-month period made $105,000, which it just blows my mind. Just on Axxess Care, no other income was put in there. That's just what was made on Axxess Care. While our top earning RN in a 12-month period made $118,000. Now, these are individuals that are using Axxess Care full time, and you have the potential to do the same, to be able to earn this much as your own boss, as a 1099 self-employed worker, but you also have the ability to just pick up a shift here and there, or a visit, here and there, to fit it in your schedule in whatever way it works to give you the extra income you need, the extra flexibility or control that you need within your schedule, within your career. So like I said, I was blown away by these numbers. To put it in perspective, the national average for an LVN in the US is 68,000 and an RN is 79,000, right? So that's the average in the US for these two positions, and amazingly way over this just using Axxess Care. Now, as we near the end of this webinar, I really wanted to go over some tips to be successful on Axxess Care. Some things you can really do to increase your chances of being successful, right? The very first one is be as detailed as possible when completing your profile. This is like your job interview, your application. You want to make sure you're putting as much information as you can to make sure that organizations know you're qualified to take care of this patient and you're the best clinician to take care of this patient. So that can be like making sure your bio is filled out. There's details about you as a clinician, things that you've done, where you've worked, maybe just important things that would be important for an organization to know that show that you are qualified. Your resume, make sure it's updated and upload that up to your profile so organizations can see that and they're able to look and see where you've worked and what you've done. The bio can highlight things also like your, if you specialize in wound care, Oasis visits, or IV infusions, or whatever that may be for you, anything you want, but be detailed and know that these organizations are looking at that. Any CEUs you complete, additional certifications you've done to help improve yourself, add all of that in and show yourself, show how qualified you are to care for these patients. That will surely increase your chances. A lot of our visits have multiple applicants, so you need to show why you're better, especially if you're newer on the app or if you haven't worked with an organization. Your work will speak for itself, but when they don't know you, having that detailed profile is going to make a big difference. Also, connecting with organizations, building relationships is going to be extremely important. It can be as simple as sending a message to an organization. Hey, I am willing and able to pick up visits in this city, and that city, and I'm available on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What happens when you start communicating with organizations, letting them know you're there, building that relationship? One, you learn a ton, but two, you have more opportunities, because a lot of times when you do that, they're going to reach out to you and say, hey, Katie, I just posted a whole bunch of visits in those cities on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you want to pick some up, we'll give you first dibs on it. So just making sure you're building that relationship, connecting with organizations is going to be super helpful as well. The last two are more ways you can use Axxess Care to be more efficient with your time. When you go into the Axxess Care mobile app and you click on visits on the bottom menu, there's a filter section. In that filter section, you can automatically filter things like miles and pay. A lot of people know, okay, I'm willing to drive 20 miles surrounding me, but I don't want to go further than that to pick up visits. So you can move that filter to 20 miles. Then there's a pay rate filter. You're not going to do any visits less than, we'll say $40. Move that to 40, and then you are only going to see visits that are within 20 miles of you and $40 or more. Saves you time scrolling through extra visits that don't fit the criteria that you know that you want. A quick caveat to that, though, is a lot of times I've had a clinician call and say, hey, Katie, I can't see this visit. This organization just called and said they posted it, but it's not popping up in my visits section. It's because it may be just outside their parameters. Maybe it's 20.5 miles or 21 miles, and you set at 20. It's not going to let you see all the visits. So just be aware of that. If you're having a hard time finding a visit, it's likely the filters, but it makes it so much more efficient if you know exactly how far you're willing to travel and for how much you will do visits for. Last tip on here, once again for efficiency, is using your availability calendar. In the Axxess Care mobile app, under menu, there's an availability calendar where you can input the days you're not available. Say you don't work Fridays. That's just the day that you take off. That's you time. You're not going to pick up any visits, and you know that. You can mark yourself unavailable for all Fridays, and you will never see visits for a Friday. So once again, makes you more time efficient when you're looking through visits. You're only seeing what you're available for and what you're willing to do. So those are some big tips we wanted to throw out there to help you guys be more successful with Axxess Care as well. Lastly, we want you to know that there's support and resources available. So first, we have our help center that's available for all things Axxess, and that's axxess.com/help. We have our Axxess user community there. You connect with other users. You can ask questions, share ideas, learn tips. But most importantly, we have our own Axxess Care support line, specifically designated to all things Axxess Care. So you can text or call that number at 469-759-9784. And once again, text or call to get specific Axxess Care support. That's going to be your fastest way to get help, but we also have an email as well, axxesscaresupport@axxess.com. You can also find all that information in your Axxess Care app under the 3-line menu as well. Just want to make sure you guys know that that support's available for you specifically for Axxess Care. Any questions you may have, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are here for you guys and available to help, and want to make sure that you're having success with Axxess Care, and we're doing everything that we can to help you have success as well. So before we end this meeting, we have a few minutes left. So what I would like to do is, if there's any questions that haven't been addressed, I can go through and answer them. Let me just take a quick look here. I think we're all set on questions right now. So I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for joining our Axxess Care Be Your Own Boss webinar. I hope this information was helpful to you, and we are here, like I mentioned, and we hope you guys have a good rest of your week and look forward to you guys using Axxess Care.
Thank you for joining our on-demand training today. Axxess is the only home healthcare technology company approved by the American Nurses Credentialing Center to offer continuing education credits and the most recommended home health software on software advice. You can watch more on-demand training videos through our industry-leading help center or at axxess.com, where you'll find tutorials, blogs, white papers, and answers to frequently asked questions. Axxess, empowering care anytime, anywhere.